Welcome back. We are excited to do this with you and worship with you again. Let's see. What has God been saying to you so far? I know He's been just working through this whole thing, working on our hearts, speaking to us, and man, we cannot wait to hear the story. So here we go. We're going to worship. So if you're at home, wherever you're at, stand up with us as we are going to go to Jesus. Let's worship Him.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so kind to me. I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. So there's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me.
That's right.
There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. Oh, there's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give God, we just praise you in this session, God. Psalm 5:12. You, O Lord, bless the righteous man. You surround him with favor like with a shield. God, this reminds us that you are with us. God, you are with us through every struggle, through every need. God, you are the one who has the favor over us like a shield. Or just like with Esther, God, she was clothed in your favor. God, you clothe us with your favor from on high. And Father, sometimes it might feel or seem like we are surrounded. But God, we're surrounded by you. And God, as we sing and worship you, God, that you surround us with your love. Lord, that goes beyond all understanding. God, you surround us. God, we worship you today. God, we worship you today. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. This is how I fight my battles. 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 This is how. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. We're surrounded by you, Jesus. This is how I fight my battles. Oh, clothed with your favor. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. Jesus. This is how I fight my battles. Nothing is as strong as your love. This is how I fight my battles. Nothing is as strong as your love. This is how I fight my battles. Nothing is as strong as your love. This is how I nothing is as strong as your love. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. Jesus, this is how I fight my battles. This is how. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight my battles. This is how. This is how I fight my battles. Sober the enemy. Sober the enemy, God.
Jesus, we just, oh gosh, Lord, we are so grateful for the power of worship. Because when we turn our eyes to you, Jesus, we realize and we remember that this is how we fight our battles. ladies, you have a God that is for you, who goes before you, who came to free you from every battle and every stronghold. And when we turn our eyes to our Savior, Jesus, everything else fades away. So we just sit and we listen and we look to Jesus. Just turn your eyes to Him. Turn your eyes to your King, your Creator, your Provider. Sing this with me. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in His wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in His wonderful face, and the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. And the things of earth will grow strangely dim in the light of His glory and grace. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Welcome back. My name is Rebecca Greebon, and you are in session 3 of Courageous, the first ever virtual women's retreat brought to you by River City Church in New Braunfels. When we left off in our story, our friend Esther had just been charged by her cousin Mordecai to go in front of the king and beg for mercy on behalf of the Jewish people, who were now in extreme danger. And it seems like the story is picking up its pace, and that section of the story is really intense and felt like it came on us kind of fast. But I have to let you know that there is a lot of space and wait time in this story, despite the sense of urgency. There's not a lot of quick fixes going on, and there's a tremendous need of patience for the players in the game. There are sustained periods of discomfort and distress. Remember, the charge and the edict has gone out, and the Jewish people have to wait 11 months for the sentence of their annihilation and their destruction to be carried out. In addition to that, when we talk about the communications between Esther and Mordecai, you have to know that the eunuch messenger system is not equivalent to like instant messaging of today. It takes several days to organize the messages, to have them carried, to have the eunuchs travel throughout the palace, wait on a response, come back. So there's a lot of wait time in a period of incredible duress. In addition to that, once she does make her decision and once she does get the message, Esther says, listen, we're going to do 3 days of fasting. You're going to have 3 days of fasting for all the Jews, and we're going to have 3 days of fasting for Esther and her maids. This is a time of preparation. This is a time of prayer and a time of planning. So this is where we are when we walk into the 5th chapter of Esther and read verse 1. On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace in front of the king's hall. She had to be shaking like a leaf because remember, if he doesn't decide he wants to see her and she's approached his hall without permission, the sentence for that is to be put to death immediately. And look at the attention she's paid to detail. It says she put on her royal robes. She's prepared herself for 3 days. She's dressed like a queen in hopes of reminding him that she is indeed his favorite, even though he hasn't called for her in 30 days. But she still has to wait for the king to make the first move. And then if he does make the first move and she comes in, she's got to wait for him to ask her a question, if he even will. If he chooses to just say hello and not ask her a question, she can't present her request. And yet she's there, trying. Notice that in here we see that she was disobedient when the situation demanded it. She did, after all, go before the king without being summoned, which was against the rules. But let's resonate in this for a minute. She was never disrespectful. Even when disobedience or disagreement was called for, she made sure to do it in a way that would not put the other person on the offensive. And this is where she trumps Vashti every time, because her focus was completely opposite. She was following a divine appointment, not promoting an agenda. She was requesting with humility, not demanding with pride. She was representing the needs of her nation, not flaunting the power of her position. She had discovered the truth deep within her soul, and it outshone her sense of self with a clarity that could not be denied. You see, when Esther does this, it's not about winning. It's not about winning. It's about rescuing the Jewish people by whatever means necessary and finding the way that's going to open the king's mind to this. The king sees Esther standing in the inner court and extends his scepter for her to touch. Then, after she waits on him and touches the scepter, he asks for her request. He asks her what is it that she wants and tells her she can have up to half the kingdom if she so desires. He's made a very lavish gesture. Remember, this is our big gesture guy. And he tells her, you can have up to half my kingdom if that's what you want. And instead, she tells him that the absolute desire of her heart, why she has disobeyed his rules, while she has stood there hoping that he will reach out to her, is that she wants to invite him to a banquet. She would love nothing more than to serve him at a banquet. And oh, by the way, if you don't mind, why don't you bring your buddy Haman as well? And so the king does. He comes to the banquet with Haman, and we are told that Esther serves them well. She pays attention to detail again. She's subservient. She's the hostess with the mostest and takes care of them. Well, the king is in such a good mood that he again says, what is it you want, my queen? What is your petition? What is your request? And again, he offers her anything she wants, up to half the kingdom. And again, Esther demurely says, what I want more than anything else is to invite you to a second banquet. Also, bring your buddy Haman again. And if it pleases you to come to this banquet, and if you're not already tired of me, then I can tell you what my request is then. The king is intrigued at this point, maybe a little amused. Remember, he's easily bored, and this is something different. So he agrees to this plan. Haman is even more full of himself than he usually is at this point, right? Because he is like the sought out in a spotlight noble. We're told he strides out of the palace, happy and in high spirits, and it all comes crashing down when he sees Mordecai at the gate, not rising or showing fear, neither intimidated nor impressed with him. This is really rubbing him the wrong way. But still, he goes on home and he's bragging to everybody around him. We're told that he's bragging in front of his wife and all his friends and the other noblemen and boasting about his vast wealth and his many sons and how the king has honored and elevated him above all the other nobles. He has everything anybody could ever hope for as a Persian noble. He's second only to the king at this point. And yet, with everything wonderful in his life, with everything that's incredible in his life, he's got a little burr in his side. In verse 12 of chapter 5, he continues bragging and says, and that's not all. I'm the only person Queen Esther invited to accompany the king to the banquet she gave, and she has invited me along with the king tomorrow. So he's still bragging, even though this little kernel of discontent's in the back of his head. And yet the more he brags, the more he realizes that none of this is enough to satisfy him as long as Mordecai is sitting unharmed at the king's gate. He just can't get that out of his head. So his wife and his friends advise him to build a gallows 75 feet high so that no one can mistake them, so that everybody can see what's going to happen on them, and then go the next day to the king and ask him if he can hang Mordecai on the gallows. I mean, after all, you're the king's big guy. Even his wife is inviting you to banquets with him over and over. There's no way he's going to tell you no. Why don't you just go ahead and build these gallows in anticipation of his answer and just ask him to hang Mordecai? I'm sure he'll say yes. Haman thinks this is a grand idea, so he has the gallows built. In the meantime, while all this is going on, that evening in the palace, the king is restless. He can't sleep. He's unable to rest, and he decides that it might be fun if he orders the record of his reign to be brought in, because there's nothing like reading material about your very favorite subject, yourself, to while away the time. While he's reading through, he sees the record of Mordecai's exposure of the assassination plot that happened. Remember, way back we talked about this at the end of chapter 2. And he realizes that he can't recall rewarding Mordecai for this service because he didn't, because he hadn't actually bothered to reward him at that time. By now, it's early in the morning. He's been up all night reading and thinking about this. And so he's wanting to talk to an advisor about what he can do here. What should I do about it? Handily enough, about this time, Haman has entered the court ready to present his request for Mordecai's execution by hanging. So the king calls him in and asks him, what should be done for the man the king delights to honor? Well, naturally, Haman thinks the king is talking about himself, because who else could he be talking to? Haman's amazing. Haman's been hanging out with him at the last 2 banquets, buddy to buddy. He's got to be talking about himself. So Haman immediately starts coming up with a list that in addition to everything else he's got, he would find to be like really cool, and he wants the king to do for him. He says, well, you should bring a royal robe that the king has worn and bring a horse that the king has ridden on, and then entrust both of these to one of the king's most noble princes. And then make this prince dress the man you want to order in the robe and help him up onto the horse. And then he has to lead the horse throughout the streets, proclaiming to everybody who can hear, this is what is done for the man the king delights to honor, over and over again. And the king looks at him and he goes, awesome. That is a fantastic idea. Go grab Mordecai the Jew, the guy who sits at my gate, and do all this for him. So Haman has no choice but to do so. Can you even imagine how his heart dropped into his feet? This is his mortal enemy. This is someone he has been bashing all over town. This is someone who he was going to call for his execution because he won't bow to him. He literally has hated him, and his family has hated Mordecai's family for generations. And he is having to dress him in the royal robes and lead the horse throughout the streets while yelling what an honored man he is for the king. In front of everybody, in front of the whole city. He is devastated. And he's humiliated. All the people he was bragging to just the night before, all the people who encouraged him to build this gallows because Mordecai's a nobody and you're an everybody, are watching this happen. They are watching him have to serve his enemy in this way. And those who aren't watching, trust me, they're going to hear about it. They're going to know what happened. And his wife and his advisors are all of a sudden freaking out because now the game has changed. Mordecai is suddenly a formidable foe. He's a favorite of the king, and it just probably won't be that great an idea to call for his death at this point, when the king has just so publicly honored him. Haman is totally off his game. He has completely lost it. He has completely been knocked down, and before he can regain his footing, the eunuchs come to hurry him to Esther's second banquet, where he's about to enter round 2. He just doesn't know it yet. We're told that Esther serves them again, and then only after being asked repeatedly by the king does she present her request. And this is what she says. Queen Esther answered, "If I have found favor with you, O king, and if it pleases your majesty, grant me my life. This is my petition. And spare my people, this is my request. For I and my people have been sold for destruction and slaughter and annihilation. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet, because no such distress would justify disturbing the king." Notice how carefully she times and words her request. She can't insult the king. She can't even give a hint of censure to a man who owns and discards slaves, who has an entire harem of trafficked girls, one of whom is speaking to him right then, who does not view other humans as important or even particularly valuable. He does, however, view his status as very important, and his priorities, his belongings, his property as quite valuable. She is his most visible property, and that has now been threatened. So, of course, the king is incensed. Who dares threaten his chosen queen? And now he has the chance to play the hero and once again view himself in the way that he wants to, as the hero of his story, to be the great king that swoops in and rescues his most prominent girl. In verse 5, King Xerxes asks Queen Esther, "Who is he? Where is the man who has dared to do such a thing?" And before you can say, "Gotcha," Esther said, "The adversary and enemy is this vile Haman." And I can just see her like pointing and looking dramatically at the king to be sure, because we know he's not very clever, that there's no mistake about who she's talking about. He's right here. Haman never saw it coming. She's a woman. She's beneath his notice. He thought she was snowed under enough that she was inviting him to banquet after banquet. This is the second hit of the 1-2 punch he's just experienced, and his mind cannot take it. He just short circuits. The second part of verse 6 continues that Haman was terrified before the king and the queen, as well he should be. The king, as he is wont to do, storms out in a rage, but Haman stays behind to beg for the queen's mercy. He loses his mind to the point that he actually throws himself at her and ends up falling on the couch where she is. He's forgotten all protocol. He's so panicked he can't remember anything. And the king walks back in right as he falls on the couch where Esther is sitting. Remember how the king feels about his precious belongings. That, and according to Persian custom, no one touches the queen. No one ever touches the queen. And Haman has thrown himself on top of her right as the king walks back into the room. If there was any doubt before, there's not now. he's a dead man. And he ends up being hanged on the conveniently recently constructed gallows meant for Mordecai by him. As far as the king is concerned, now the issue's over. With Haman dead, his fury has subsided. He gives Esther Haman's estate as a present, and she appoints Mordecai the manager of the estate. And all's well that ends well. Except it hasn't. The original issue hasn't been resolved. The Jews are still in danger. The law hasn't been revoked or addressed. Esther has to risk everything once again and return to the king. She has to hope that the multiple banquets with her and the interactions with her haven't become boring, and he's actually going to extend the scepter and then bother to ask her what she wants. She's going to have to hope he's not annoyed or dismissed and doesn't refuse to see her, or worse, put her to death. Luckily for her, that's not what happens. She goes back to the king. He extends the scepter, and now she asks her request. This time, there's no coy playing. There's no patience. There's no sitting back and waiting. There's not time for that anymore. We're told that she throws herself at the king's feet, begging and weeping. But even in all of this, even in her distress, she doesn't lose her head like Haman did. She remembers to use king first language and to say things like, if it pleases the king, and if he regards me with favor and thinks it the right thing to do, and if he is pleased with me. And then she explains to him that they still need an overrule of Haman's decree. She makes it very personal to herself. Again, careful not to point out any fault or cruelty on the part of the king, and to again give him the opportunity to rescue her as the hero of the story. When she says, "For how can I bear to see disaster fall on my people? How can I bear to see the destruction of my family?" I can't imagine her stress levels by now. Because look at all the waiting she's had to do. Look at the intricate dance she's had to weave and the part she has to play. She can't hurry. She can't panic. She can't forget who she's dealing with or who she's dealing for. Can you imagine the strain? She has no idea where this path may take her. She only knows she can't deny the path. She only knows she's got to do the thing. What a lesson for all of us. What a dramatic way to drive home the point that living this life is not for the faint of heart. Not if you're doing it right. So our question for the night is this: do you want to be comfortable, or do you want to change the world? Because you don't get to do both. God always does more than we could ever ask for or imagine. He generally asks for more than we think we can give. And this is the part, in all transparency, that scares me. Courage in the big picture over current circumstances, because it takes away any illusions I have of control. It makes me pay attention to the truth of the beginning of the Lord's Prayer, where we say, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Because you see, the truth is, his will be done, whether I'm on board or not. Mordecai reminded Esther of this when he said, "Look, if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance from the Jews will arise from another place." He pointed out to her what I often have to come back to for myself. I am a child of God. I am part of his plan. I am not the whole plan. Creation and all its splendor, salvation and all its glory, in no way depend on me for survival or success. I'm one tiny piece of the puzzle. It's an opportunity given to me for my benefit, not God's. So the question becomes, do I want in on this action? On the fulfillment? On the purpose and the joy? Because, the desire for extraordinary, for purpose, for something amazing is deeply rooted in all of us. It's how we're made, and we're made that way with great intentionality. Okay, so if you're getting nervous about now, it's okay. Take a breath. Because there are seasons in life for everything. There are seasons of less change and more comfort. And if you're in one, it's okay. It's okay to have times of rest or of peace, of relative or even blissful comfort. If you're in a place, in a space of sitting back, taking stock while you take it easy or regroup, or trying to figure out what's next. If you're exhausted, worn out, worn down, and just over it. If you're content right where you are and you don't want to move right now, or if you're scared to rock the boat and you need a little more time to get brave enough to jump, it's okay. We need those times. Life is full, and the people around us need our presence in the everyday and mundane, sometimes even more than they need us to charge ahead, waving the banner of excellence. It's not always epic battles and near-death experiences. Life is to be lived, and though we are not called to be of this world, we are called to be in it. So if this is your season to live and be, do that. If you're just barely surviving right now, just finding enough space to breathe in and out, do that. Give yourself grace. Now more than ever, we are learning what it is to live in the moments that make history, that define generations, and to try and thrive in the tension that exists in those spaces. It's okay to stay in those spaces while you figure out what to do next. In her book, Being Brave, Brené Brown says, when it's time to move, when the wait is over and he needs your attention, you'll know the restlessness will start. The restlessness will start. Or your circumstances will change, or a messenger will arrive. I'm not saying you have to be miserable. I'm saying that every change for the better involves some degree of discomfort. Otherwise, we wouldn't change. And the work in and of itself is not comfortable a lot of times. If you want to become more flexible, you stretch to the point of pain, right? If you want to become stronger, you work out to the point of soreness. If you want to lose weight, you have to change your eating habits, and that is often very, very uncomfortable. If you want to learn, you memorize until you feel like your brain is going to explode. Change does not happen on its own. Growth does not occur in the mid-range. And no one ever remembers a boring story. Being a difference maker involves difference, not the same. You cannot keep the same small range in yourself or your surroundings and expect to make a difference. It doesn't work that way. Here's a moment of truth for us. Are you ready? Because here's the kicker. In this life, you are going to be uncomfortable. At some point, in some way, with someone. You are. There is no easy path, no free ride. There's no smooth sailing off into the sunset with the perfect guy or the perfect book or the perfect drink while you eat perfect food that never makes you fat and watch perfect waves that gently rock the boat you're lounging in your perfect swimsuit-clad figure while never getting bored or tired or seasick. You will have hard times and tough conversations and hard days and relationships that suck the life out of you, and money problems, and health scares, and moments of weakness, or doubt, or anger, and anxiety attacks. It's the world we live in, the crazy, broken, people-filled world with sin and jagged edges everywhere. There are no exceptions, no free passes to this. Not since Eve let her cravings outweigh her common sense and got thrown out of the garden. It doesn't exist anymore. But I'll tell you something. This is how we know this to be true. We're told this by Jesus himself in John 16 when he says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world, you will have trouble. It's unavoidable. Whether you seek a life of comfort and ease, or seek the path you're created for, or run from it, there will be bumps in the road. We are learning this now with intensity, aren't we? On a global scale. All of us, regardless of age, gender, race, social class, economic status, education level, we are all fighting a common foe, facing a common fear. The big picture of this includes us all. And then in addition to that, we've got our unique battles as well, don't we? We have our circumstances within the circumstances that affect us. And they're battles that have changed and intensified in the light and the dark of this strange season. We are bonded, yet unique, each facing a different aspect of this interval. We have to figure out where that places us, where our priorities and principles lie, then make our choices from there. If Esther had chosen differently, she may very well have survived, living her posh prisoner's life, hiding who she really was for the rest of her days. She would have still faced discomfort. She would have still known the pain of a loveless marriage, the constant fear of losing her place, family drama, palace politics. She would have still witnessed the persecution of the Jews wherever that went, and faced the struggles of everyday life as a woman in a time of oppression. She would have lived as a queen of her time, perhaps always wondering, perhaps always seeking the approval of others, perhaps a little lost. Instead, she got to be an integral part of something unimaginable, unprecedented, and unbelievable. She got to fulfill a most unique role in history, to save her tribe, to have her name forever in the hearts and the minds of God's people, to experience the joy and the sense of identity that is only found when we follow God's plan for our lives. Because the second part of that verse in John 16 is, "But take heart, I have overcome the world." When you start to look for God, really look for him, and listen to what he says, it will change you in ways you never saw coming. It will root you in ways you never knew were possible. Listen, no matter what you say or do in this life, no matter how hard you chase the approval of man or the world or let its rules mold you, you'll never please everyone. You'll never find perfection that lasts or that you can hold on to. So you might as well be part of the remarkable. You might as well shine in the mess and live a life that's amazing. Be the person you were put on this earth to be. You have a choice, a chance to be unforgettable in some way to someone, to maximize your impact. You can make a difference. You can shine brightly and with purpose. You can make your mark, leaving the world a little better place. You can leave a legacy, a trail of lights for those who come behind you to follow. You can give them joy and courage and hope. You can do all of this with one simple choice. Simple, not easy. It won't be comfortable, not really, and not usually. What it will be is remarkable. And there will be those who don't approve, who criticize your choices and get wrapped up in the details over the results. When you study Esther, when you study all the amazingness that she did, you will find tens upon hundreds of commentaries criticizing how she did it, how she should have done it better, how she could have done this way, what she should have done instead, by people who did not walk in her oh so tight and uncomfortable shoes. They may not all like how you behave, and that's okay. Well-behaved women seldom make history. This is one of my favorite quotes, and when you look for the attributes of this quote, you'll find that it's credited a lot of times to two different people. You will find sources that tell you that Eleanor Roosevelt said it, and then you will find sources that say that Marilyn Monroe said it. And while both of these women in their own right were equally fierce and trailblazers, I find it a little bit confusing that anybody in history could mix them up. because I don't feel like they had that much in common. And so I dug a little bit deeper, because that's what I do, and I will tell you that as great as both these girls are, neither of them said this quote. Are you ready? The person who said this quote was Pulitzer Prize-winning historian Laurel Thatcher Ulrich. So Laurel, thank you so much for this beautiful quote, and now you all know the right person to attribute it to. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted on the earth." This, my dears, is our moment to be still. More than any other time in modern history, we have been given an opportunity to be still. It's a forced opportunity, but it's an opportunity nonetheless. It's our reminder to find his voice and seek our roles in it for his glory, for his honor, for his purpose. He will be exalted regardless. We just get to choose how well we tag along. So what's stopping you? What voice or word or phrase or fear is loud enough to drown out the truths your soul knows? Paul asked this question in Galatians when he says, "You were running a good race. Who cut in on you and kept you from obeying the truth?" That kind of persuasion does not come from the one who calls you. It does not come from the one who calls you. Because here's the good news. Are you ready for this? We all make it. If you sat there and said, "I am a child of God," we all make it. We all win the prize. What prize, you ask? I'm so glad you asked. The prize that we're told about in Philippians 3 that says, "Forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus." Listen, I'm going to do a little spoiler alert from some of you. If you flip to the very end of your Bible to the book of Revelation, our team wins. He wins. God has already won. He is already victorious. So we're all going to get to celebrate at the after party once we stumble, skid, or drag ourselves over that finish line. It doesn't matter how banged up we are when we get there. He does not care about those things. Another quote from John Ortberg's Soul Keeping says, "I am reminded when I am alone that God loves me, that there is something about life that is infinitely deeper than all the expectations and roles and performance stuff of my outer life. It changes my body. I can feel it. My soul feels its worth." You are only able to live in a way that really helps and loves others if your soul feels its worth. So we're going to take some time this evening to resonate in that. I want you to take some time to release yourself from the things that stop you, that drown out the truth that your soul knows deep within, and do some prep work to remind yourself that the one who calls you to be has not cut in on your race, has not disqualified you. He instead wants to take you to the place that your soul feels its worth and remind you that you are loved, you are absolutely qualified, and you are his. Will you pray with me? Blessed Father, this evening we come to you, and I just want to ask special blessings over every single person listening to this word today. God, I ask that they're able to still the voices on the outside, that they're able to stop the chaos and the questions just for a moment so that they can hear you. God, I ask that they not doubt their self-worth, that they not doubt their soul's worth, and that they know 100% without any qualification or hesitation that they can always find you when they seek you. And I ask, Father, for the blessing to know your voice enough that they recognize it when they hear it. God, thank you for walking with us in every single day, in every single season. Thank you for equipping us with everything we need. Maybe not everything we want, but everything we need to face the challenges and the battles of this world. I ask, Father, that you hold especially close the people who are just so scared, the people who are sick, the people who are hurting, the people who are confused about where the truth lies and what it means for them. God, I ask that you let your light and your truth shine through, that you let your love fill all those cracked and dark places within us, so that we know without a doubt that we just have to keep pressing on forwards towards the goal. And you are waiting there with a prize that cannot be measured and cannot be compared on this earth. God, thank you for the opportunity to meet together in your name. Thank you for the opportunity to hear your words, and thank you for the opportunity to learn exactly how we can shore up our faith and battle back the fear. It's in your beautiful name we pray. Amen. I thank you so much for joining us. We've got one more session to go tomorrow where we continue on with our adventure in Courageous.
Hi, my name is Ashley Gwynn. We're so grateful that you've been here to join us for this entire retreat, and we're excited to move into more conversation in our small groups. Again, if you pre-registered, you got the email with the link to the Zoom groups. If not, check the comments below and it'll be there. We're excited to go deeper and have more conversation. Have a blessed night.